Let's just go down the rabbit hole here for a second. Let's just assume this is some sort of adversarial or foreign technology.
To Dr. J Radio Live. I'm your host, Dr. J, in the city of the Woking Dead. I mean, literally, that's how far LA has gotten. Of course, today we have a very special panel, the Third Phase of Moon panel with Blake and Brent Cousins, my dear friends and mentors. Apollo Asteria, Michael from Dark Hour, who you've seen here before, and also Richard from Goof On, who you've also here before, and of course, Michael Stratt, aerospace historian. Two of the most important things in ufology have always been to me crash and retrieval and alien abduction. Crash and retrieval because that's the nuts and bolts, right? That's the stuff that we could actually say, hey, look, this did not come from Earth. This came from this craft. Here's the evidence. There you go. The other, alien abductions. Now, when we asked Roger Lear in 2013, I believe that's the year was, we sort of haven't had anyone to come up and say, hey, I got implants. They're sending radio signals to deep space. I want to ask you all, why is alien abduction sort of been forgotten, and is it important to disclosure? So let me start with my dear friends and mentors, Blake and Brent. So first, Blake, tell me why. You know, I mean, do you think that alien abduction is something that should be talked about in terms of disclosure?
You know, that's a really good question, and you know, we've been following the abduction phenomenon for, you know, over a decade. I think I've done over like 2,000 or 3,000 interviews with abductees that have called into our show. They get really passionate. It feels like a community of people that are able to vent their feelings, because, you know, who are they going to go to talk about this? People get really scared about coming forth with their abduction experience. And we opened up our phone lines on Third Phase Moon, and we invited the public to tell their stories. Next thing you know, like I said, thousands of people called in over the years. Recently, we've kind of swayed away from the abduction phenomenon for just one simple reason, and it's just because of the lack of evidence. It's not saying I don't believe the abduction scenario. When these people call in, they're very genuine. You can hear it in their voice. They believe what they experience. The problem is, and I ask this over and over again, why not grab something from the craft? Let's bring back some of the material. Maybe you have your cell phone on you and you're able to film it. I get the response where they say that the extraterrestrials, their technology will void you from bringing back anything from the craft, or they'll disable your camera. And yes, that makes a lot of sense. And maybe that's the reason why we don't have the evidence that we want. But is it something that we want in this field, especially if it's going to come up to the Congress level, to hear from abductees and with no evidence to back it up? That's my only concern. It's interesting though. People get thrown in jail for eyewitness testimony and a story, and with the people that are backing up this evidence with their experience, if there was some kind of, you know, criminal element to it in a court of law, there would be guilt, or there would be proof because of the eyewitnesses, people that have experienced it with their friends multiple abduction scenarios, and they're all backing it up. So I don't know. It's tricky. It's just because the lack of evidence with the abduction, we got to take the person's word for it. But again, that works in a criminal court of law, so why not?
Yeah, I mean, literally in the criminal court of law, that has sent people to the death chamber. I mean, long before we've ever had photographic evidence or video evidence. 150 years ago, you were condemned to death. You'd be hanging 3 days later because of 2 eyewitnesses, one who put you there, one to corroborate. So things have completely changed, and that's kind of sad because to this day in a court of law, that is what convicts, literally. I mean, when you have a circumstantial case. Brent, let me ask you, when we did the documentaries with Roger Lear, we looked at the alien implants. We know these were getting studied. We know they had metals that were not consistent with being made on Earth. What do you think's going on? I mean, that to me is the evidence that should be also talked about to the Congress.
Big time. I remember those days, and we sent Dr. J for that exclusive documentary we did called the Alien Human Project. And Dr. J was there on location. What was it? The 17th implant that was removed?
Yep. That
Amazing
was
stuff.
Yeah, the 17th surgery, I was present there, and then we also did the 2 independent documentaries prior to his 17th removal. So I got to hold the one that we did in the 2 documentaries and the 17th removal. And
then we spoke to one of the abductees, apparent abductees that had the implant, and we interviewed him, and he had this pretty profound statement. He says when they were removing the implant from his body, it felt like it was almost like a part of him, and he almost felt a little like it took a little piece of them away, like they're almost connected. Interesting stuff on that point. Where are the rest of these implants, and why aren't they being studied today? And who's the leading researcher in this field now? Since Roger Lear's passed away, there's nobody else to take over his place in a medical room to remove these apparent off-world implants. What's your opinion on that, John? Where's the evidence now?
I know that Stephen Colbert, do you remember the scientist that worked for Roger Lear? He sadly took off with most of the implants when Roger Lear died. I do know his family held on to one. I haven't spoken to them in about 6 years. I don't know where it is at this point. I'd like to buy it from them because they're kind of in financial straits. I think that would give us a chance to study this. Other friends of ours, Richard Shaw, sadly passed away. We know he spent $5,000 taking it to a scientific facility to be tested.
Buy it. Do not buy it. What you can offer is that we will get it studied in a university, University of Arizona, University of California. We have connections into these universities where they can put it under a lab and we can verify what it is. But I don't think you should be offering any kind of financial gain. This is a bigger picture for everybody. And they should just, allow us access to it, and, we'll protect it, insure it, whatever it is. They could be there. So
I'm with you on that. Sadly, after his funeral, when I asked about that, I said, hey, we can continue on his research, because he actually named me in front of his family, and they just wouldn't give it up. I mean, it's like they wanted to hold on to that piece for him. I don't know if it's got sentimental value. That's the only reason I brought up money. But I'm with you. I shouldn't have to pay for something that's proving this to the entire world. Now, I'm going to go from top to bottom. Apollo, tell me, why do you think alien abduction and alien contact is not being talked about today as much as it should have? And with Lou Elizondo talking about the UAP task force and things like that on Tucker Carlson, you never heard about, the school landing in Zimbabwe. You don't hear about stuff like that. Why? Uh-oh. You got to unmute.
I feel it's mostly to do with the fact that there isn't a whole lot of evidence to back up these abduction cases. And but there are some very credible cases out there. And I've actually gone over a lot of those on my show. On Apollo's Odyssey, I actually went over I did 2 episodes where I went over the top 10 craziest and most credible UFO stories. And I broke them all down. There's like those famous historical ones, like the Betty and Barney Hill case, and the one like the Fire in the Sky, Travis Walton. We have all those cases that actually do have a lot of evidence. So there should be something to those cases, but it's just the fact that so many people have stories, so many people have come forward that feel something has happened to them. And, a lot of times there isn't a lot of evidence to back it up. A lot of people claim that they had memories wiped, and, the whole hypnosis aspect where they go through regressions to find out what happened to them. And I think these stories should be looked at, but it's just the fact that there's so many people that can just come out and say, this happened to me. It may very well have happened to them, but what is there to back that up? But I do feel that this is important. And, that's why I like going to conferences, the whole aspect of conferences where they have the experiencers lounges. I feel that that's so important because it brings a lot of people in that, maybe went through these traumatizing experiences, and, they go to a conference for the first time and probably don't even know anyone in this community because they want to understand what happened to them. So I feel that those experiencers lounges are really important, and, maybe these experiences should be looked at more. But I think what this really comes down to is the perception of the general public. Hearing these cases, it would change the perception of the public. And this is something my uncle always told me growing up, who's a very practiced energy worker. He does like past life regressions, and he's a remote viewer, and he always told me, and this happened historically, that when the Spanish conquistadors came to the Incans or the Mayans, I'm not sure which one it was, or the Aztecs or the Incans, only the shaman from the tribe could see the big ship coming in, because no one in the tribe had ever seen anything like that before. So their senses were not allowing them to perceive it. So it was only the shaman that could see, and it took a while for everyone else to even be able to perceive it because they had never seen anything like that before. And that makes me wonder. I feel all these cases are so important because it allows the general public, when they hear these cases, and at least the ones that are the most credible, the ones that have the most evidence, if these are brought up and looked at, I think it makes it the general public more capable of seeing more of what is happening in our skies. And I feel that may very well be the reason why so many more cases are coming out in just the past year alone, because so much has been talked about in the media. So that's how I feel about that.
To your point about Travis Walton, for instance, his body has changed after his abduction. I mean, he's aging younger. When sadly I was sick for about 22 months nonstop in the hospitals for recurring pneumonia, he wanted to see if my blood matched his, because he wanted to give me a blood transfusion to essentially heal me. So that right itself is sort of evidence. I mean, I don't know if he's got an implant or not, but the fact that his body has fundamentally changed because of what happened in 1975, I think is something that should be talked about by the UAP task force or the SOD, DOD, whatever the hell's going on. Michael from Dark Hour, tell me, why do you think alien contact and abduction is not ancillary to disclosure? Why? What's going on?
I think people's focus has been much more of a mechanical sense. I mean, we're looking at technology. We're keeping our eyes up on the skies rather than seeing what's landing down below next to our feet. I think the shift in attention has just shifted, literally. Certain, as it's been mentioned before, certain cases, especially with abduction, you're lacking this physical evidence. And we do still have implants and so forth. But again, as Michael Schratt has mentioned, it's a matter of being able to access some of this stuff behind the closed doors because they're not handing it out. And even if it is held within a family somewhere or someone close to Roger Lear, he made off with some of these, they're somewhere. But again, they're not giving us access to look at them. So maybe it's possible that they're trying to phase that sort of angle in the field off to the side, and again to make room for a different sort of narrative that might sweep a bit heavier in way of what they want to tout. Truth of the matter is there are people out there having these experiences, and the fact that most of them are at least initially hesitant to speak up because of the experience itself, it sort of lends itself naturally to that silence. And I think that there are times that people who have the other narrative and are sort of steering things a certain way are very aware of that and lean on it in some sort of progressive fashion. I do hope to see that this is more of a focus as time goes on, because again, there are thousands, if not millions, of people who have had some sort of experience, whether they were taken physically, but taken through some sort of meditation, in sleep through dream, you name it. There are people who say that these are real experiences. And, it comes back to the idea that disclosure will maybe truly come from the individual based on experience. I mean, who knows how many of these different species have been taking us for X number of years for different purposes, if they've cycled, through different groups of extraterrestrials, along with our own government factions taking us in this high technology. Maybe our governments, when they decided that they were going to start testing some of this back engineered technology, said, hey, let's try to take people the way they do. Of course, there would be something nefarious in way of intention behind this. As we've seen in the past, people have implemented every crack within the wall that they can to sort of, weasel their way in. Maybe that's what we're seeing here. But again, as long as people are still out there talking about this, it's going to stay within the consciousness and at least on the top of the waves. If it's not part of the sea, it's still there and it's present. And it'll be up to us as experiencers to really bring that forward and be a little bit louder in way of voice as time goes on.
One quick point, Dr. J, I wanted to say that, the reports that we've heard is that there's 4 million people that claim to be abducted on a yearly basis in America alone. And once again, we have 550,000 plus people go missing every year just in the United States. What's to say maybe some of these missing cases are possibly abduction? Go ahead, Dr. J. Just want to throw that out there.
I actually would think so. There's a person I interviewed, one of my favorite abduction stories. He has a pseudonym, Ricky G. He won't show his picture. And he talked about when he was abducted, that they had taken him to this black goo. They told him he could eat it, he could crap it out, he could breathe it. It's going to keep him alive. And he said some people seemed like they were in there for years. So that would make me think that, hey, some of these alien abductees and contactees were literally taken off for God knows what reason.
We've heard the exact same story from other experiencers as well with what you just said. Go ahead. Yeah.
Now, Richard Giordano, when I had Michio Kaku on about 1.5 years ago last, and he mentioned that the Tic Tac, Go Fast, and Gimbal could possibly be ET drones. It seems to me that when we first started producing drones, before that, everyone assumed, hey, we got pilots in these craft, and they're, we're mixing with them, we're meeting them, etc. But since then, it's kind of like been forgotten about. Oh, we're seeing, a Tic Tac, 40-foot Tic Tac, but oh no, it's a drone. It's an ET drone. Do you think that since we've invented, drones without pilots, that's one of the reasons people no longer even talk about alien abduction, and that's why maybe it's not even part of disclosure?
No, alien abduction is a unique scenario that rarely has any evidence to back it up. And it's been proven, I don't know without a shadow of a doubt, that a lot of people are having sleep paralysis, or in my case, I thought I've seen UFOs and aliens, but lucid dreaming. And there are cases where people were wearing, their clothes were backwards or had a stain on it and all that other stuff. Yeah, it seems like we're not talking about it anymore. And I think that's on purpose by the government. They've been bringing up, the Tic Tac, Go Fast, Gimbal, and all these other accounts. And the government won't talk about that because that's not their thing, because people aren't getting abducted in the military or in the Navy, the Army, so it's a public thing. It's up to us. It's not, the government isn't going to talk about abductions. I don't even know if they ever really do. But as far as getting that out in the open, it's something that's going to be on YouTube and Instagram for a long ways away. It's just a very hard thing to prove. And the cases seem to fall apart after years. People take it to another level because they like the attention, and unfortunately their credibility falls apart along the way. Even though the abduction may have been real the first time, I don't know about after, the stories they come up with of, having 26 children and no proof of it, no pictures, no hair, nothing to take back. So, yeah, I think that's why. I think the credibility factor, the people who are delivering these stories, you're not hearing it from people who are high status in society. It's just not happening. It's usually people you never heard of before. So we need somebody with a credible background to come out with their abduction stories. I know celebrities are trying to do it now, but I don't think they're as credible as anybody. So we'll have to see what happens with these abductions. I'm a little worried about where that's going to go in the future. But we have a long way to go to bring abductions to the forefront as a credible experience. I think they're credible, especially with all the people missing, like Blake said earlier. Some of those are probably alien abductions or alien human mixed, working alongside aliens. A lot of abductees reported seeing a military figure in the background looking on, as they were operating on them or doing whatever. So we'll see. And cattle mutilations too. So
huge factor, very huge factor.
It's a tough thing to make public, and it's a very personal story. It's very personal. So when somebody talks about being abducted, you're really opening up to the world something you really didn't want to, or maybe wanted to, but were afraid to be criticized. It's a very, very difficult thing to bring forward. And anybody who does, kudos to them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that statement that you said about people's credibility. The people that say, oh, the aliens took me and said to save the whales and vote Democrat for Joe Biden because that's what they said. Well, you know what? That's okay. Hold on a second. You are going to destroy it for everybody else. I can honestly say that every time I've interviewed someone who's been abducted on this show, 3 more or 10 more people have come out from my audience and reached out to me. I put them on, and sometimes their interviews are even better than Travis or Whitley Strieber or any of those. So it is going to take the people. But now I'm going to turn to you, Michael Stratt, because you're my nuts and bolts guy. Me and you are on the same level when it comes to crash and retrievals. To me, that's the creme de la creme of UFO cases. But to me, like I said, the second is alien abduction. Now, we know in 1896, Stockton, California, Colonel H.E. Shaw and a friend were walking, and they saw 2 non-human entities with gray fur who tried to kidnap them. This was in the Stockton paper in 1896, the first known case published in California. But we know this has been going for thousands of years. It's possible that Jesus Christ was an alien. But what about cases that have actual evidence? Like others said, the clothes turned backwards. Or Jim Sparks, when he was abducted, he has his footprint half inside the glass and half outside the glass. Do you know of any more cases that actually have any proof that can help with disclosure?
Generally, as you said before, I'm strictly nuts and bolts, so I don't really think I'm qualified on abductions. However, I will make one point on the December 3rd, 1967 Ashland, Nebraska Herbert Schirmer case, which I think is very important. So he's driving down the road at night. A red light approaches his squad car. Turns out it's a 120-foot diameter disc-shaped craft that has a catwalk around the outer circumference of the craft. There's a red light coming on the bottom of it. Then, through hypnosis, he determined that he was brought inside the craft, and there were at least 2 beings. He was shown kind of a laptop device that wasn't a laptop, but then he was shown a window. Inside the window, there was a cigar-shaped craft with 3 other craft on the bottom of it. However, the only problem with this is that the second part of this case, the details were brought out through hypnosis. So again, how do we judge the credibility of it? This is prior to most of the other abductions within ufology, but you mentioned a nice historical case as well.
Yeah, and I also like cases that don't involve hypnosis, that actually involve remembering things, because people can be suggested in hypnosis. Now, I'm not going to say anybody who's been through hypnosis has been suggested something wrongly, because, I've interviewed a lot of people who have been abducted, and I believe most of all of them, because they've had some traumatic fear and it's very consistent with others. But at the same time, it's going to take everybody's responsibility who's been abducted and who's involved. Everybody in this panel, let's keep pushing every aspect of ufology, because I don't think you can have one without the other. I'd like to give everyone a chance to plug in what you're all doing. Let's start with Third Phase of the Moon. What are you guys doing next, and where can people find you? We know Third Phase of the Moon, the world's largest UFO YouTube channel, so we got that. Oh, you're on mute.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, we just got back across the country. We finished up our new documentary. It's going to be coming out early in 2022. I guess I could drop the name here on Dr. J. It's called Above Top Secret, the technology behind disclosure. And it features, Dr. Stephen Greer like you've never seen him before. He allowed us access to his ranch in Virginia. And it's really intimate. I think people are going to, think differently of Dr. Greer once they watch this documentary, Above Top Secret. And, we've got Michael Schrad in there as well, and we appreciate him. We met him over there in Los Angeles in person. And then we got Jim Goodall and another good guy from the FBI, retired John D'Souza. And let me tell you, it's explosive. It's our follow-up to Countdown to Disclosure. And who knows what's going to happen on Third Phase Moon. It's day-to-day around here. Right, Brent?
Yeah, we might be up in actually LA next week sometime. So we'll be hooking up with Dr. J and Michael and Apollo while we're there too, and doing just follow-ups and interviews with you guys. So yeah, things are pretty active here. We got some new UFOs that just came in, and it's going to be exciting. This year's just coming to a close, and it's already been a really good one just for the panel members and us all getting together, and really looking forward to 2022 with Above Top Secret. It's going to be pretty much the biggest documentary of the year, I'd imagine, and it's some of our best work. We can't wait to share it with all you guys. So,
well, let me say this: your first documentary was Amazon Prime's #1 paid download movie for the entire year of 2021. So you're going to have the same success. If anyone hasn't heard of the first documentary, then they are living under a rock. So they have to go see that movie. Also, I'm going to work really hard because Tucker Carlson needs to take cases from Third Phase of the Moon. Fox News has money. They could say, hey, this is CGI. This is not. They should really start paying attention to the public. And that's why I think it's important. Apollo Hysteria, Apollo's Odyssey, right, on YouTube. Where else can people find you?
Well, I'm an actor here in the entertainment industry, so you can IMDb me if you want to see my work there. Also, I have 2 websites. ApolloHysteria.com that just talks about general everything I do, and then shamanspears.com to fund my show. I make crystal spears for channeling energy. They're pretty cool. They have crop circles on them. So definitely check that out. And in regards to the work I've been doing, I actually, besides my YouTube channel, I just got picked up by 2 radio networks. One is KGRA. I do a 2-hour show on KGRA every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific. And every Wednesday, I do a 1-hour show on Aftermath FM, and that's also streamed to my YouTube channel. So, besides that, I'm always at conferences speaking. I mean, I think I've done like 2 conferences every month the past year practically. So, I'm doing a lot. So definitely just follow me on social media because, I'm always going around doing a lot with all my fellow speakers and colleagues in this community. I'll probably be doing a lot with Rise TV coming up here, which is Edge of Wonder's new big platform. So I'll be in Miami doing some work for that coming up here. And I'm always doing work with Third Phase of Moon. I love being a panelist for Third Phase of Moon. So really kind of like got my hands in a lot of different things right now. There's a lot of different projects going on. I just like to be involved as much as I can in this community. Definitely check out my YouTube channel.
Yeah,
awesome.
Please do check out everybody's. And in case the wheels fall off on this thing because they are really attacking me on censorship, I created a Rumble channel, so let me just say that now. It is Dr. J Radio Live in case everything goes to crap here one day. Find me there. Michael Schrad, where can people find your work? Where are you speaking next? Do you have any interviews or conferences?
I got a conference coming up via Skype. It'll be Danbury Public Library, all on the East Coast. We'll be doing about a 90-minute lecture there. I'm going to continue doing a second pass through all the Leonard Stringfield cases. Going to be doing new commissioned artwork, new illustrations for anything that I haven't done before. So any cases that I didn't think had enough to it, I'm going to re-look at those again, get those cases illustrated to make this history come alive. That's really going to be my plan. So,
Richard, Goof on Radio. As I say that right, Goof on Radio, or is it just Goof on?
It's just Goof on. Thank you. It's okay. Everybody does that. But yeah, I'm on 6 nights a week. Well, 6 days and nights, Monday through Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, and Saturday I do a show for the UK at 3 p.m. Eastern. So a lot of that going on. The live show, 2 hours, and also I'm going to Washington in November to do the Anjali interview, Anjali-esque. I'm gonna, do what Lou Elizondo said. Instead of having hundreds or thousands of us marching around, the Capitol, I'm going down there by myself, which sometimes the solo voice is the loudest. So I'm gonna do a mock interview of, with myself and talk about trying to get disclosure. And, it's kind of like a mock but serious type of thing I'm doing. And, I'll be going, doing some Disneyland visits here and doing that every month after that. So a lot of stuff going on, boots on the ground. Anywhere Third Phase of Moon wants to send me around the, southeast here near Florida, I'm there. So
I
that's
gotta
what's been going on.
hand it to you, Rich. One of the hardest working people, 6 days a week.
It's
Good
7.
for you, man.
It's 7 days.
Still, that's a lot of freaking work.
What are we doing today?
Yeah.
We're still working, always working, man.
Hey, it's Sunday. We are. Dark Hour, Paranormal. Where can people find you? What do you got coming?
So you guys can find me on Dark Hour Paranormal on YouTube. Of course, you can find me over at Third Phase UFO Report, and also with Third Phase of Moon, and sometimes with Goof On. Honestly, right now, as we move into the colder seasons over here on the East Coast, I'm looking to focus more on the interviews. So I have Long Island Bigfoot coming on tomorrow night, and I have Randy Kramer coming on shortly after that, within a few weeks. I got to just confirm with him, but he's excited to come on. That'll be an interesting interview. Other than that, I'm actually working towards a full-length documentary on the Bridgewater Triangle here in Massachusetts, and there will be some set days to go out and film in the upcoming months. So that should be interesting and a little daunting, considering how much of the area we actually have to cover and how many experiences have been, active within that encompassed place. So that should be interesting. And thank you very much, Dr. J, for having us all on today.
And just to add, Dr. J, didn't mean to interrupt, but Michael and I, we're loading up videos on Third Phase UFO Report on a regular basis, the sister channel to Third Phase of Moon. I didn't want to forget that, because that's almost every other day, every day. So
that's true. You guys load a lot of work up there, and keep that going, because hopefully one day I'll add more to that too as well. Also, let me throw this out there. Minds.com. That's the only social media I have left. Free speech all the way. It pays you in cryptocurrency, which you literally put your bank account at the end of the month. It just goes right in as cash. The link is down below. Other than that, thank you, everybody. We will do this again soon. And until then, I'll catch you on the flip side.
Let's just go down the rabbit hole here for a second. Let's just assume this is some sort of adversarial or foreign technology.